So one of the questions I get asked a lot is about home cooked meals. And so what's awesome about MyFitnessPal is that you can go in and you can create recipes. And so where you're going to go is over to more, and you're going to click on meals, recipes, and foods. Now you'll see that I have a bunch of recipes that I've already done, but there's two ways you can do recipes. So no matter which way, you're going to create a recipe. So tap on create a recipe, and here you'll see that you can add from web or you can enter ingredients manually. Now some websites, if you did a recipe from a website, will pull those ingredients in. Some won't, and you'll just need to add them manually. So I'm going to try add from web, and I'm going to see if my recipe will pull in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my URL. I'm going to copy it, go back to MyFitnessPal, paste it in, and let's see if it will pull the ingredients or not. So click on import recipe. Oh, and beautiful. So it did. Now, the other thing though is I like to go a little rogue when I create recipes. So for this one, I didn't necessarily follow things to the T. Like I put in some frozen vegetables instead of the carrots, things like that. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and import all of those, matching the ingredients. Now, this is where I will adapt things. So for example, I'll look here and say, okay, stew meat, 1.5 pounds. Does that look about right? Yeah, and so the other thing that I'll do is I will go to my actual meat and I'll put in the exact amount that I bought. So I actually bought, it was about 1 kilogram that I bought. So 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So I actually used about 2.5. So I'm going to click on that. Click on the little check mark in the top right-hand corner. Olive oil, 1 tablespoon. Yep, that looks about right. Awesome. Salt, pepper. The big thing with these ones, with spices, it doesn't really matter if you include them or not because you can see that they don't really have a caloric load to them. Now, what I will warn you of though is sometimes I have put in something and it's told me that it's got like 500 calories to it. So just be careful. This is a good step to go through just to make sure. So Worcestershire sauce, 2 tablespoons. Now what I can do too is I can also scan my Worcestershire sauce and so that it's exact. So I would just tap on search for an alternative, scan, and then I can scan mine. And I had, see if it has, no, it doesn't. So I know that that 6 teaspoons is equal to 2 tablespoons. And I look, and yeah, that looks about right. Perfect. Oh, so here we go. Garlic, 3 cloves of garlic. Do we think that that is actually 1,300 calories? Probably not. Now, garlic, does it really have a caloric load? Not really. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to delete that one. Onion, 100 grams. Again, that doesn't look quite right. But again, an onion is not going to add a lot of caloric load. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. So with the potatoes, same thing here. What I'm going to do is I used a package of potatoes and I'm just going to scan those in. So I use this package here and I use, so it says 1/4 of a package, so that means that I used 4 servings. And then I know that that is accurate for what I added. Beef broth, same, I did not use a beef broth. Instead, I used a vegetable broth. So what I'm going to do is same thing. I'm going to search for the alternative, scan it, So I used 3 of those when I did mine. Perfect. And then the other thing I need to do is this unmatched one, which is fine because I actually used a package. Oh, that was fast. So it says 1 cup, which is 125 grams, and I used 500 grams. So if I do the calculations, 500 divided by 125, that's 4 servings. So I'm just going to do tap on servings and put in 4. Okay, so all of my stuff, oh, I just got to check cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, just to make sure that's accurate. And 1 tablespoon is 7 grams. So, yep, of carbs. So that looks about right. Perfect. So now this is for, you'll notice at the bottom there's this 4 servings. So if I go over and I look and I say, okay, so if I were to have divided this into 4 servings, each serving is going to be 821 calories, so 16 grams of fat, 40 grams of carbs, and 66 grams of protein, which is like a decent amount. But this was definitely not 4 servings. I'm going to say that it's about 6 servings instead. So when I say that it's 6 servings, now what they'll do is automatically change things. So 44 grams of protein, 26 grams of carbs, and 10 or 11 grams of fat. Now, the second thing that you need to know is like, what is a serving then of that? Now, there's 2 ways that you can do it. The best way that I like to do it is to actually weigh out the final product. So what I did is I made this in the Instant Pot. I took out my pot, I weighed it, and that ended up being 3.854 kilograms. And when I took away the weight of the pot, which is 814 grams, then that's 3 kilograms. So if I do 3,000, right, for 3 kilograms divided by 6 servings, that means when I weigh it out, when I go to take my serving, each of those servings is going to weigh 500 grams. The other question I get a lot, before I get to that one, if you don't want to weigh it out, you can also just do a visual serving size. So sometimes what I'll do is if something is in a skillet or a pan, I'll just visually kind of divide it into 4, those sorts of things. So, but with a stew, it's a little bit harder to kind of visually divide that. So that's why I like to weigh things like soups and stews. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is the question I get a lot of, well, if I eat a soup, like sometimes I'm going to get more protein, like more meat, sometimes I'm going to get less meat. And that's totally fine. Most likely you're probably going to eat it over an average of a few meals, and so it's just going to average out over a couple of days. I would say though that, do try when you're serving yourself, just to make sure when you look at it that you do have, some protein in there, some vegetables, things like that for like soups and stews. So hopefully you found this useful as to how to create a recipe.